Hey, my name is Seth, and here's what we're going to do on this channel. I'm going to reach out to real businesses, accounting firms, construction companies, HVAC, plumbers, whoever has a real problem worth solving, and we're going to build the AI solution together in public. No fake demos, no toy projects, real companies, real problems, real results. The reason I'm doing this because I want to bridge the gap that I see on YouTube, which is everybody just giving you a lot of theory and nothing is actually real world applicable. And so with me running email campaigns to various industries, identifying their pain points and coming back and building them, live in front of all of you, that's going to be more beneficial than just learning a lot of theory and that's it. I'm hoping with this, you'll actually understand how to take that step forward between knowing the fundamentals and actually knowing how to implement something. So what we're going to start with today is I've been reaching out to accounting firms for the last month or so, and I've sent well over 3,000 emails to various accounting industries or accounting firms, and I got back well over a dozen different pain points that we could go in and build. But the number one on the list was month-end reconciliation. And if you're not aware, month-end reconciliation is where an accounting firm will take a month's bank statement and they'll compare it with a statement that they have in their software of choice. In this case, we're going to be working through QuickBooks. And this is all dummy data. Basically, I have a CSV that is identical to what would be if you pulled it out of QuickBooks, as well as a bank CSV. So what we can do is we can treat the bank CSV as our truth and then compare it to the QuickBooks one and find those discrepancies. The reason why this is so important is because some firms have clients that have 5, 6, 700 different transactions per month. So, which may not seem like a lot, but if you're going through those manually and you're 15 cents off somewhere, that is hours and hours of digging to find that 15 cents discrepancy. And it could just be a pain. By the time you've spent 3 or 4 hours on it, you may call someone else in to help you and they may spend 3 to 4 more hours on it as well. So at that point, you're already 6 to 8 hours in trying to find 15 cents when what we're fixing to build will solve it within seconds. So that's where AI comes into play. But on top of that, I really want to educate you guys on not going in with the view as a hammer and seeing everything as a nail. That's not what we should do as people in the AI space because that's how we get a bad reputation. What we need to do is understand where AI makes sense. Can it be fully agentic? Can it be, kind of robust or deterministic with, say, N8N or something along those lines? Um, or does it still need the human intervention? So we build something like this, there still needs to be a bit of a human handoff to just ensure accuracy and it's really going to depend on what the pain point is. But in this case, with this bank reconciliation, it's really smart for it to be both. So we want the human intervention to go through it as well as us, just to confirm. Because when it comes to something like this, to fully automate it, there is a big risk because if you are, off or you don't report something or catch something, then it's potentially legal trouble. So we do have to do our due diligence there, make sure this runs accordingly, um, as well as be professionals about this. So with that said, I've gone ahead and what I'm going to use to build these out is Claude Code and anti-gravity. It's just Claude Code plugged into anti-gravity. The only thing I've done so far is I generated my claude.md file. I'm not going to go through the specifics on creating your claude.md file or anything else or file folder structure. It's all kind of dependent on you, whatever you want to do. But in this case, I have all my directives set up, execution scripts, as well as the output. And the reason for this is our directives is basically going to have it's going to be like the persona. So for month-end reconciliation, we're going to have a set amount of things that we want it to do and what we don't want it to do. So those will go in there. And then once we're ready to actually build all the execution scripts from Claude Code, will go into the execution folder. And on top of this, I did unplug the Claude plugin GSD. It's good for just kind of context rot and things like that. So with that, we can go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and put Claude in plan mode. And we want to specifically tell it what we want to build. And then we'll go with this plan mode. We'll go back and forth until we're happy, and then we'll build it, and then we'll start testing. So one thing to note here is when talking to a lot of these firms, it became apparent to me that it's what they do is whether it's in SharePoint, Google Drive, whatever, they have a client folder, and then they put those CSVs into that client's folder for whatever month it is, right? And then yeah, so I identified that as being basically the handoff, so we can have Claude Code running in the cloud or wherever, however we want to host it. And basically, when those files are uploaded to a certain identifier, Google Drive, you can have the ID, SharePoint, you can have the ID. As soon as those files hit that folder, we can then start our month-end reconciliation AI solution. So that's going to be the idea here. On top of that, we need to give it to the details of what we want it to do and how we want it to do it. So I'm going to start off by just going into plan mode and giving it all those details. I need you to build me a month-end reconciliation solution. What I need this to do is it's going to take in a bank CSV for a particular month, as well as a QuickBooks CSV for the same month. And you need to cross compare them and identify any discrepancies, such as being 15 cents off. It could be capitalization. It could be a missing transaction completely in QuickBooks, or one that we have logged in QuickBooks, but it's not in the bank transaction. All of those things need to be accounted for, on top of anything else that you think is worth identifying. So when planning this, if you see any gaps or need further clarification, ask me before putting it into the plan. Okay, so now we'll let that run and see what it comes back with. So after it ran for a little bit, you can see it's coming back the questions now. So the files that I gave it, that I put in the temporary folder, they're actually Excel files, not CSV. So it come back, should I support both Excel and CSV or just Excel? So in the real world, again, this is not going to be theory based. We're going to do this exactly how we would if we had a client paying us $10,000 to do this. So yeah, we're going to do both Excel and CSV. Output format, what output format do you want for the reconciliation report? We'll do this for now. That will change later on. But again, for testing purposes, just in a TXT file is going to be totally okay. For matching transactions between bank and QuickBooks, what date tolerance should I allow? Bank and QuickBooks entries for the same transactions must post on different days. Then 7 days. So you can see here, exact date only, transactions must match on the same date, versus within 3 days, it's recommended allow up to 3-day difference to account for posting delays. This is hard. This is where you would have to then go, you would have these higher level discussions with the accounting firm. And this is where you would get those exact answers. In this case, I don't like the within 3 days, because think about it, if you get a transaction at the end of the month and it doesn't come through till January, then you need to know, hey, we're gonna account for this in next month's reconciliation. So in this case, we're gonna do exact date only. Yeah, again, if to clarify some of these questions, you would just have to go through the person that you're working for, the client. Should the script flag transactions where amounts are close but not exact? Anything that does not match is a discrepancy. There's not going to be any rounding or, in quotes, it was close. If it does not match, we need to flag it. So now that we gave it the answers back, we'll wait and see what it outputs here. So as you can see, it came back crystal clear, exact matching only. Any mismatch is a discrepancy, which I think that's leaning more towards the safer side, especially for an accounting firm that's got 200 to 500 employees they have well over 500 different clients running all these transactions. So it's better to be safe than sorry. And again, for the nitty gritty things that are going into this, that's where you would talk to your specific client to iron those out. So now it's just going through the plan process. Once it's done planning, we will go in and review the plan. And if we sign off on it, then it'll be good to go, and it'll start writing all the execution scripts. Okay, so it's now back. It has given me the plan. So one thing I noticed is I put the 2 files in the temp folder that I wanted it to run, the January 2026 CSVs for both the bank and QuickBooks, and basically it already ran them. I just generated these through Claude and had them, basically produce discrepancies. And yeah, it already identified the discrepancies, so that kind of defeats the point. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go in and tell it, like, I want this to be as real world and production ready as possible. And what I mean by that is I don't want this to generate the code to read these two files and that's it. I want it to be able to, if they're not using QuickBooks, or if, the CSV formatting or something is different than what we're expecting, it needs to adapt and actually work for that as well. So I'm going to keep planning, and I'm going to account for these things. I like the plan. The only thing I don't like is you've already ran and found the discrepancies. I need this to work in a way that is production ready. This project will be implemented to accounting firms between the sizes of 20 to 500 employees. So there's going to be a lot of different scenarios that can happen, such as different headers, different columns, and all those things. And what I actually want to do is I want you to structure the executions to be able to handle anything. And then at the very end, I'll give you these two files to run, and you run and execute them and find the discrepancies that way. It needs to be as real and production ready as possible. So we'll give it that. We'll see what it comes back with. Again, this is on me. The initial prompt that I gave it with the build, if I was to really sit down and lay out everything, when talking with a client, etc., then I would always have these things mapped out, and I probably would have thrown it into Claude to give me an initial prompt to throw into Claude Code. That way it has a I don't know, it has a better start. So like right now you can see, we took 2 steps forward and now we're taking a step back. So if you were to get all the information, throw it into Claude to give it better context, then it would have been far better. So let's see. Obviously, we want it to auto detect. Yeah, so we want one bank CSV and one QuickBooks CSV per month. That's the standard. Yeah, so you can see in this case, this is what I hit on earlier. We're going to be doing QuickBooks only. So now that it asks additional questions, it's going to go back and rewrite the plan. And then, yeah, it'll come back, and once it gives me the updated plan, we can go from there. Okay, so Claude has come back with the revised plan. Looked it over. It looks a lot better. It's even accounting for currency symbols, date formatting, mapping the columns automatically. This is really good stuff. So we'll just go ahead and accept there and let it start building. So this is where it'll actually start implementing things into the directives as well as the execution. So I'll leave this open so you can see what it populates there. You can see here it's actually it's building the schemas.py, the registry structure. It's building all of these Python scripts that are going to go into this execution folder. And then once it's done, you can actually see here at the bottom, it's going to install the dependencies and run validation against the test files. So once this is done, all the execution files have been written. We will come back and we will test it. Okay, so it finally came back and it ran it end to end one time. Realized I had to make some changes, so it came into the execution scripts, made the necessary changes, and it reran it end to end, and it passed. So with the files that I created, I would say it got 8 out of the 10 things right. The 2 to 3 that I'm having it confirm now are very, very minor. The only thing I'm really having it do is make sure it expresses the things that are, potentially wrong, in a better way to where a senior accountant will understand it better, not just as like a blanket statement. So right now it's just going through the things that I gave it. It's going to follow up on them. So you can see what I thought, because whenever I had these files created, I identified what should populate. So I had a good idea. So, with this is why the human intervention part is very, very important for this exact reason here. So, again, you could see it got majority of it right, but then you have the human come in and review these to finalize it, and it would have caught these the same way I did. But you can see with the ones that it identified, you go from maybe 30 minutes cleanup, rather than taking 3+ hours to go in and find these discrepancies. So yeah, again, this is by no means is this 100%. The next part with this would be to actually get real data from the company and run it through this as well as implement it in a way that they would use it. For instance, I mentioned the SharePoint and the Google Drive folders earlier. You would just basically, you could connect it to something like Modal, to where on the back end, as soon as files are uploaded to a particular, say, parent ID or a parent folder, it'll automatically trigger Modal to run this project in the cloud, and then it would be live. That way there's obviously you don't have to run it locally and do those things. So there are some few changes that could be made, and I think we could even continue on with this and make it as production ready as possible. Maybe that could be another kind of segment we go into, is we ask if we can implement this to the accounting firms that have reached out to us, and then we take it and we fine tune it to show what that process actually looks like, as far as like the customer facing interactions and things like that. So I hope this has been helpful. Yeah, this is one of many. I have many projects that I've gotten back from different industries that we can go in and build. So I hope you enjoyed. If you would like me to go more in depth on certain areas, or maybe there's different paths such as setting up Claude or whatever it may be, just please drop a comment, and I would gladly be able to. I would gladly help in any way that I can. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.